talking about.
Did you turn around the clan though?
Oh, yes. You want me to tell you how?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a longer process. What I did is I spoke to the leader only. Took him to my lab, showed him a lot of interesting things, and he said in his southern accent, "Will you come on down to clan meeting and talk to our boys?" I said, "They wouldn't listen to me, Lou." He said, "I'll get him to listen to you, because what you say makes sense." I showed him a lot of things he never knew existed. So he silenced them, and I spoke to them a little bit. Then I said, "Lou, you can look at a person, tell us all about him. How do you do that?" He said, "Well, I didn't think I can teach you anything." I said, "Well, if you can do that, tell me how it's done." So I brought some pictures down at the clan meeting and projected them on the wall. And Lou said, "He looks like a good man, a God-fearing man, American veteran, projecting his own values." On the end of the picture, I pulled out the bottom. It says, "Wanted by the FBI for subversive action against the United States." When he used to speak, he just said anything, and the others, not knowing anything, shook their head. This is the first time what he said didn't make sense, so his group started to laugh at him. So I said to the guys, "Shut your mouth, because Lou knows more about people than we do." I had to defend him till the next film. The next film is a record of a man talking in an Oxford accent about aviation. He says, "I see a skinny Englishman with a bald head and eyeglasses." He's projecting his own values. Now then, 10 minutes later, the image comes on. It's a black guy raised in England. "She's a goddamn nigger talking like an Englishman." This is Lou's reaction, not my words. And I said, "Lou, that guy was raised in a different environment. If you took a black man and raised him in France, he'd speak like a Frenchman if he was a baby. If you raised him in Germany, he'd speak with a German accent." He says, "You mean to say that a black man speaks that way because he's raised?" "Yes." I said, "Lou, if I took your kid and raised it in a Jewish family, he'd be a nice Jewish boy. In a Nazi family, a nice Nazi." People are not taught how to think. They reflect their culture. Proof that in Italy you talk with your hands. "Mangiare d'americano." See, you say, "Come on, eat. There's good food." That's not you. That's the environment impinging upon you. We don't teach children how to think.
So it's nurture versus nature, the great debate.
Nature. Environment shapes values, facial expressions. If you were brought up in the deep south, you'll speak with a southern accent. And if all you hear is the damn niggers are lazy, they don't do it, if that's all you hear, that's what you reflect. So you might say, "I'm going to get me a nigger and I'm going to kick his ass." Is that you or a reflection of your culture? Think about it.
So if I was a serial killer.
Oh, here's what makes a serial killer. There was a guy named, in the early days, this guy, they believed, ate 45 children. The public wanted to tear him to pieces because the public looks at him as free will. I look at it as indoctrination. Now, what kind of indoctrination makes a serial killer? So a psychiatrist named Wortham wrote a book called Show of Violence. Most people never read it. Essentially, here's the guts of it. When he was about 8 years old, he was touching his private parts. And his mother was an old-time Baptist. She said, "You're going to burn in hell touching my body. You will burn eternally." She scared the hell out of the kid. And that evening, the mother said he stuck needles into his genitals. He didn't want to go to hell. Can you understand that? So he used to go into the woods with minority children and try to cut their genitals off to save them from hell. What do you think a soldier is? A guy that's shown motion pictures of a Japanese guy raping an American woman pregnant. And so the enlistment goes up. So people are taught to hate. Before the war, remember, it was pretty parasol and fan in far-off Japan. Now, slanty-eyed bastards. The Germans are not people, they're krauts. All nations are corrupt. They all teach their people to hatred and to be patriotic. Einstein said patriotism is a disease. It separates people.
You're not born with bigotry, prejudice, anger, or envy. It's nurtured. You experience that through your environment. If you approached a headhunter in the Amazon and said, "Oh my God, don't you feel terrible? You have 10 shrunken heads." He may say, "Yes, my brother has 20.
Is he bad? No.
So how, if we know what is I mean, we can look at all the influences on society that are negative.
They don't know how to do that today.
And we come to we look at this vision that you have. How do we get there? Because a lot of people have no vested interest.
I know.
In abandoning the way things are done.
We want to make a major motion picture showing how we get from here to there. It's not going to be smooth. It's going to have a lot of problems, a lot of assassinations. This is normal to that much of a change. If you want to try to patch up the old system, it'll take many years and many wars. We don't have the time. If all nations are building nuclear weapons now because they don't trust each other. Now,
is your life in danger?
What's that?
If you come up with something that's so
my life is always in danger. It's always been in danger. I developed the first flying wing aircraft. I had nothing but trouble. I worked on long hours of children working in factories and tried to stop that. I'm 94 now. I do all I can do. Rather than fear death, I don't fear death. I fear where man is going. The hell they can produce is unbelievable because of not really human stupidity. They're not educated in our schools. Our universities are better equipped than ever, and the wars are getting worse. So how can we be sane if the weapons are getting worse?
Roxanne, he doesn't worry about himself, but do you worry about him? Because of the things he is talking about breaking the natural order, don't they? Well, the established order.
We both are very afraid of where things are going out there, and if you sit back and do nothing, nothing will happen. So he's been working on a new approach all his life that nobody else is dealing with. They're all trying to patch up this system, and it's this monetary system that creates the aberrant behavior, that creates the pollution, that creates the terrible situation between people and the environment. So if we sit back and do nothing, this will continue to go right down to the ground. And what it takes is introducing these new ideas. People think of it in terms of socialism, communism, free enterprise system, or fascism. Nothing has been introduced. So we want to show it in film to show people really just what type of future they can have if they work together and create and make all the natural resources as the common heritage of all the Earth's people. This is the only way we'll go beyond what we're doing today. Otherwise, there'll be more and more suffering if we don't use the scientific method applied to the way we live.
You will never stop, will you? You will never stop.
The language we use today was designed hundreds of years ago. That makes it impossible to talk to one another. When you read the Bible, it's subject to interpretation. People say Jesus meant this, no, he meant that. So you got the Lutheran, Seventh-day and the Catholic. So we need a language that's not subject to interpretation. Mathematics, chemistry, when chemists talk to each other, it's not, I think you mean this. When structural engineers build a bridge, they talk to each other and they understand exactly. We need that in the common language. Otherwise, when you talk to a person, I don't care if it's your wife or children, it goes through their head, comes out different as they think you mean it. That's the danger of the world today. So people say to you, have a nice weekend. Why don't they say, have a nice life? Why just a weekend? Because that's a normal. See, they don't know what they're talking about, most people. Now, how do I get up and turn them around? By identifying with their values and gradually, as fast as I can, I'll take them into the new world.
You're sneaky.
See, here's where people get mad at me. They say, you want to give people things for nothing. I said, if you're born in America and England and France, you got the airplane, the automobile, the telephone, the electric light. You didn't work on any of that. You got it for nothing. Does it hurt you? No. There's nothing wrong with having people access whatever they need without money. We can turn out volumes of goods today with automation and make it available to everybody. That's the end of most crime. Most crime.
Could you ever see yourself stopping thinking, stopping advocating?
Well, a brain disease or aging maybe might have a stroke and not be able to do it. That's possible in this world. But in the future I talk about, everyone is cared for, from babies to old age, and no one is in authority. We don't tell people how to live. All the machines do is make goods available, transport it. They do not control people.
And that's possible?
Yes. It was possible in 1927.
At the beginning of automation and fabrication.
But we're terrified of the machines taking over.
That's because they take your job away. See, in the future, when a new machine comes in, we call the help in, say, you used to work 8 hours a day, now it's 4. You used to have a week, 2 weeks vacation a year, now it's 6 weeks to be with your family and all. So machines are no longer used to aggrandize the powerful. They can't lay you off. The machines are now operated for the benefit of all humanity. There's no more separate nations with artificial boundaries. If single nations control most of the resources, there's going to be trouble. Has to be, continuously. There'll always be war and rumors of war if you keep it this way. It's only when the earth is declared the common heritage of all the world's people that's the end of territorial invasion. If you don't understand that, I'm sorry, I give you all the examples you want. I know what makes those trouble. Some people do is say, well, what can I do? Do what you can. If you do nothing, nothing will happen. Everybody that brought liberation to women's rights, black rights, Polish rights, that isn't what you want. All people need the same thing, free access to the necessities of life, otherwise they suffer. Now, what's so difficult about that?
It's the movies that make people fearful of technology. They really project the free enterprise system into the future, and all these robots and technology are working against people. Well, that's what they do today. So they are afraid of technology today, with the bombs and the missiles and the war and the technology that displaces people, and they have no purchasing power. But that's not what a resource-based economy would do. They'd use technology for the benefit of people and the environment.
All over the world.
Finally, how achievable is this? If everything went according to plan...
According to Peter Joseph, who started the Zeitgeist movement, he told me 2 months ago that 50 million people now know about the Venus Project and are all working toward it. So I have a whole pile of magazines from all over the world, each one talking about the Venus Project positively.
The Zeitgeist movement is the activist arm of the Venus Project. After Peter Joseph did the film Zeitgeist Addendum, it became well known all over the world. And now there are chapters in almost every city in the United States and every country all over the world, and they're working towards these ends. They're talking to people. They're introducing it in their media and their TV in any way that they can. It really depends on what people do to make this come about.
We don't want to hurt anybody or kill anybody, because we don't look down at anybody. We look at them as victims of culture. It's not their fault.